Housecall Pros. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Pro Power Hour. I'm Chris Weldon. I'm one of the community managers here on the Housecall Pro team. And this is something we do every Thursday at this time. You can think of this as a product training webinar. So if you're new to our community or you're new to Housecall Pro, I encourage you to add this to your calendar every week. If you're seeing this on Facebook, you can get registered on Zoom, so get reminders and you'll kind of know what's coming up, some of the topics that are coming up. You can ask questions. I will monitor the thread. So if you are on Facebook, you're watching this today, have any questions along the way, I'll be sure to answer those. But we've been doing this for over a year now, and we've covered almost every single part of the product of Housecall Pro. So if there is a certain feature or a product that you need some help with, we have a recording library available in our help center and on YouTube. So you can go back and watch on any topic that you want. Typically, almost every week, we're joined by Phil. He's one of our onboarding specialists, but we've got a special session today. We're going to be talking about my money, something we haven't talked about, and Phil recommended that maybe we talk to some of our product team about that, who might know it a little bit better. So Charlie is here. Charlie, would love for you to introduce yourself, and we can get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. So my name's Charlie. I'm a product manager at Housecall Pro. What that means is I help kind of understand what our pros are looking for when it comes to financial products and get those onto our roadmap and ultimately get those built. It's been really awesome I've been at Housecall for about 4 years, but kind of seeing, where the product was 4 years ago to where it is today. I think if you're someone who's been with us for that whole journey, you've seen a lot of the improvements we've made. And if you're just joining us at the beginning of your journey here, I can assure you that the next 4 years are going to be equally as exciting. So I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing, going to go through like a lot of the basics and then go to a little bit more of like the in-depth products. And we're going to focus on our financial features. So we'll start with like kind of a brand new account. I'm going to be doing everything with test data. So this is all, I'm going to be putting in credit card numbers, but they're all test credit card numbers. And, nothing I'm doing here is real. Although I wish it was sometimes. So this is basically, we're going to talk through our like payments. And like, that's like one of the big foundational components of like why Housecall Pro has a lot of advantages. You can manage all of your payments in one place, the same place that you're using for your statement of record. And so that keeps your jobs aligned up with your payments, and then that all gets pushed over to QuickBooks typically for a lot of our customers as well. So if you're on a new account, you're likely going to have this get started checklist is what we call this. And down here at the bottom is this set up payments button. You can also get here by going to My Money, and you're going to get a screen that looks kind of like this. So to set up payments, I am going to go through this quickly because it's just, ground up. You might not be able to see what I'm seeing right now, but I'm connecting my bank account through something called Plaid. Plaid is this secure third party that we use to securely attach your bank account to Housecall Pro so we know where to send your funds. So Housecall Pro is the kind of customers are going to be paying you. Those funds are going to be flowing through us and ultimately Stripe in the background. And we need to know where to shuttle those funds to. So one of your first steps is telling us what bank account to use. There is a backup option here where you can use your account routing number, but I'd suggest going through Plaid. It's just more secure. There's a lot of fraud out there these days. Be careful. Use trusted partners like Housecall, Plaid, 2FA, all those good things. So step one is connect your bank account. Step two is going to be fill in a little bit of information about yourself. We call this, this is any payment processor is going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and fill this out as an individual. And just gonna kind of fly through this quickly. You got to put your first name, last name, what year you were born, your social, stuff like that. We take like this is called KYB, know your customer, know your consumer, know your business information. We take this really seriously as well. This is just us making sure that you're the right person who owns that bank and, you're the person we can send payments to. You can't tell yet, I'm located in Vermont. Not a lot of folks, so shout out if you have a connection to the Northeast. But that's it, kind of those 2 pages, one about kind of your business and one about yourself. Agreeing to the terms of service here. If you have additional owners, you can add those in here as well. You'll kind of typically know if like you're in a state where you have 2 or 3 owners. And then that's pretty much it. That's kind of you're going to be set up with payments after it. So that's the boring part. Had to go through that first. Want to make sure everyone understands that flow. It's pretty straightforward. Any questions about that, Chris, while we let this load for a sec?
Looks like Wanda just asked a question asking if Plaid has always been what we have used. Just curious. She's been with us for a while.
Yeah, Plaid. As long as I've been at Housecall, so at least the last 4 years, and I'm pretty confident even before then. Plaid's been around for a long time. They're kind of what we call an aggregator, and they're kind of have this middleman that lets bank accounts get connected to different places. If you use like them in personal finance apps, like if you ever used Mint or Monarch or things like that, you may have run into Plaid. And they have a lot more security when you use Plaid versus when you just enter your account routing number. That can work, obviously, but typically it's better just to go the secure route. Um, all right. Next, after you've onboarded into payments, there's some other products that this kind of immediately makes you eligible for. We're looking at two right here. One is consumer financing. Um, just talking a little bit about what this is. This is the ability for you to offer loans through our third-party financing partners, specifically WiseTac right now, but we're always looking for more partners in this space. Let you kind of give your customers that ability to take out a loan to pay for the work. We see this a lot with bigger ticket items, unexpected expenses. This can be a really good sales tool for your business as well, because you're not selling a $12,000 repair. You're now selling just $500 a month for the next year or so. And for a lot of homeowners, that can make a huge difference. So that's consumer financing. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Mobile check deposit is the ability for us to basically process checks automatically through the Housecall Pro system. And so you maybe use this in your own personal world. If you've received a check from someone, you sign the back, you take a picture of the front and the back. We can basically give you that whole ability. We see this a lot with companies that have technicians that are spread out across kind of a relatively large area, and they're getting checks from their customers, but they don't necessarily bring them back to the office or bring them back to you, the business owner, that frequently. This can also just kind of like relieve a little bit of like the bookkeeping. Like, the customers handed you a check, but like until that check is actually processed, you don't actually have those funds coming your way. So this can be a good way to speed up your access to those funds. Um, I'll let's see. Actually, I'll go ahead and I clicked exit out of there, but the check deposits tab is down here as well. Just to like talk a little bit about like, what we're seeing now. We call this the pending transactions table up here, and any payments that you take from your customers are going to show up here in a pending state. Your first credit card transaction is going to take a little bit of time to process. There's a little bit of just a longer, a couple more checks we do on the back end just to make sure you are who you say you are. That's your bank account. We've seen all sorts of crazy situations with fraudsters, and we really want to make sure that we're doing our best to protect you, the pro, in these scenarios. So that's what's going to show up here, and then it'll be here for about 1 or 2 business days, and then it'll pay out to you, and you'll actually see that in your bank. And that's what's represented down here. So I'm a brand new company. I don't have any payouts, but I'll go ahead and create some so you can see what that looks like. I didn't activate it earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and activate this now. So this is mobile check deposit. So that's kind of a high level getting into payments. What does it look like at the very beginning? Let's go ahead and accept some payments and talk about what that looks like. So if I have a customer that I've created, there's a couple different ways for you to accept payments. If I create a job for this customer, we'll do this real quick. You guys obviously, there's a whole other, as Chris said, there's a whole library about creating jobs and managing jobs. I'm just going to say like test line item, and I'm just going to put $150 here just to kind of show you guys, high level of how to mostly focus on the payment side of this. But, we're sprinkling AI and all this stuff. There's a lot of cool improvements on the whole job flow that are coming down the line. So next step, I would schedule the job. I'm just going to skip all the way over to pay and just show you guys, like, you've done the work now for this pro. There's a lot of effort that goes into that. You've maybe invoiced them. Tons of stuff there, but When you get here, this is where you're actually able to enter in a credit card number and actually charge the customer right here. One thing I do want to answer and talk about a little bit is card on file. That's something that is a really valuable feature. I just put my card on file with a HVAC company who's going to come out and clean our heat exchanger or our heat pump in a couple of weeks. So like I know all pros are using this. It's a really valuable feature to just make sure that you can get paid by your customers as quickly and as professionally as possible. So we put this in a couple different places on the customer, where if you were kind of at that early stage with a customer, you have them on the phone, you could say, hey, Larry Smith, I want to get your card on file. We require this before we do any work with you. So I'm going to go ahead and put a fake card number here. This is test. Again, this is what I wish was real, but is not. And this basically is a card that lets me lets me just test. This won't work for you, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and add that card. And what this is going to let me do is then when I go to pay for the job over here, I'll be able to, I might need to refresh this page first, but I'll be able to just charge that card on file. This is something that, there it is. Basically, that card's right here. I can see all the information about it. If I need to update it for some reason, you can do that. If you need to remove it, put a different one on file. If you want to, for some reason, charge a different card, you have the ability to do that there. But with one click, that card's charged, and you're going to get that money in a day or two. Let's talk about auto charge card on file while we're on the card on file topic. Pretty new feature for Housecall. There's two ways that the card can be auto charged. The first is when you mark the job as complete, which would be, I believe, this button here. The other is when the invoice becomes due for the job. So if you're using invoicing and you're setting up your invoices, those will have a due date. And if either of those criteria are true, where your invoice is due or the job is marked as complete, that's going to auto charge the card on file. So where you do that, so you go up into settings up here, you scroll down. There's a lot of stuff in here. And I believe it's under invoices, our invoices tab. And if you go down to automations, this is where there's this section here for automatic payments. So this has some stuff. If a customer has a card on file, automatically charge them on invoice due date. You can turn this on. And if I move my intercom guy, can I get there? You can also exclude customers from auto charge card on file as well. So that's how this works here. So any questions about that? We'll keep rolling if not, but that's auto charge card on file, card on file. We also talked a little bit about typing in a normal card transaction. That's always available to you. For some reason, you don't have the card on file, you can easily just type in the card. If you're using the mobile app, we have a lot of options there too. We have basically there's a tap to pay program you can use where you can actually that's like no hardware. There's also folks who will order card readers, which are physical device that reads the card information. There's a card scanner where you can basically take an image of the card and it'll read the card number for you, so you don't have to type it in. The mobile app there's a lot of good features there, and I'm only going to show the mobile check deposit version today, but there's a lot of good ways to make it really seamless and really easy for your team to charge the card in the field.
Charlie, I know we had a question about card readers in Canada, and I did answer that, letting them know those are not available. Is there any other limitations with payments for our Canadian pros that might be watching?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that bank payments are due or are available in Canada, the ACH network. I'm not sure if that's one that might be. This is a good question. I might need to punt it though, because I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't want to give our Canadian pros the wrong information on this one.
Yeah.
We certainly have some help article content that I can dig up that would help answer that a little bit better.
Awesome.
Okay, so I took that one test payment. Here it is showing that pending transactions. There's a little note here. Hey, it might take us some extra time to process this first transaction. Don't be alarmed. It's like, we take this really seriously from a fraud perspective, and we're just going to make sure that you own that account. This customer really did pay you, and just make sure that the money's going to the right place, or worst nightmare is sending money to the wrong bank account, and it can happen. Um, there's also, I'm going to talk about Instapay for a quick second. So, as soon as you start to take payments, you're going to be eligible for Instapay. So, Instapay is your ability to get both bank account and card payments. Sorry, get bank payments and card payments to your bank account for an additional 1% fee. These typically get there within 30 minutes. Card payments, that's like credit cards, debit cards, all that sort of stuff. Bank payments is when your customer, if you send an invoice to your customer and it has that, it gets them in the email and there's that pay online button, there's an option in there for your customer to connect their bank. And that's how they'll basically they'll use their bank account directly rather than a debit card or a credit card. So that's a relatively new feature enhancement for us. It used to be that bank payments actually couldn't go instantly, and something our team was able to get ready for you guys is having bank payments go that way as well. Um, what's nice about that is bank payments or ACH payments only have a 1% fee, and so this 1% on top of that is actually like a relatively that's a 2% transaction fee versus with cards those have a higher transaction fee. That's going to be a higher when you add on Instapay, it's going to be a higher overall fee per transaction. So I'll go ahead and enable that. It's right over here. If you don't have this banner, so let's say like I lost the banner, how do I get there? It's right down here on the left in your settings. So if you go down here and you click payout settings, this comes over out on this side. And so you can now see a couple different things. One of the questions was, how do you change your bank account? Let's say that like, you're using your one bank and you're moving all of your business over to a different bank account. You can do that by just clicking edit here. We are going to ask, you're going to have to go through 2FA here. So whatever phone number you originally used to sign up your business, you'll have to enter that here. And then you'll basically go through the same flow that I showed at the very beginning, where you just go through Plaid, and then Plaid will reconnect that new account. So if you ever need to change your bank account, that's how you get there. If you also want to turn on or off instant payouts, that's how you do it over here. All right, we talked about ACH a little bit. Mobile check deposit. So let me share actually a different screen for this one.
Yeah.
So this is a recording from my phone from a while back. So this is the mobile app on iOS. What happens here is you can see this is a job for $250 that is due. So the job's been marked as complete. And in this case, you click that pay icon up at the top. And what that's going to do is launch our mobile or kind of our payment screen, where you basically, first step is you determine how much you want to check out the job for, and then you have your options here. I'll actually pause back there for 1 sec. So at this point, if you click that credit card button, this is going to give you all your card options. So card readers, tapping in the card or typing in the card number, card on file, all that stuff's going to live in that credit card button. Cash and check and other are three other options. Cash is the customer's handing over cash to you, and you want to mark that job as paid through cash. Check, in this case, is going to be mobile check deposit, and I'll talk about what that looks like. And then other is kind of the other ways that jobs get paid. And this can look, there's a lot of other options there. It could be through financing that's not through Housecall Pro. It could be through a different payment method. Could be Bitcoin, like there's we've seen a lot of different ways that customers want to pay their contractors. So in this case, I click check, and I'm going to see the mobile check deposit UI here. First step is you confirm the amount. Make sure you type exactly what's on the check. And then you click that top button, and you're going to take a video, or not a video, but a picture of of the check. And then you click the back of the check button, and you're going to do the same thing. Important to note here, all you have to do on the back is for mobile check deposit only. And ideally to the name of the company as well. You don't need to sign the back of the check. That's that's a common question we get. Hey, like, I don't want my technician signing the check. Like, that's not part of this process, and that's not. What you're doing is just, we want to make sure it's like, again, going to the right business for mobile deposit only, and then the name of your business. That's the best practice to make sure that you're getting those checks endorsed properly. If the check does have a little box that's like, check this box for mobile deposit only, you can definitely check that as well. That doesn't hurt. One last thing on the mobile check deposits, a question we get a lot is what are the fees associated with this? There's no fee for mobile check deposit. It's a free payment method. It's included with your SaaS subscription. So, we hope that you're going to stay with Housecall Pro for a very long time. And, that's how you're helping support this product. There's no additional fee associated with this. So, unlike card payments and ACH payments. So you'll click that button at the bottom, processing check. This will spin for a couple of seconds, and then you'll get a confirmation screen. It'll take somewhere between 1 to 4 business days for you to get those funds. And then back on the other, once you refresh this screen, you'll see that the job is paid in full. So your statement of record, Housecall Pro, is now in sync with the actual status of this job. You've collected payment; those funds are going to get to your bank account in a couple of business days, and you're all good. You don't have to take any. We recommend keeping those checks for 2 weeks, putting them in an envelope. But unless something goes sideways, you're gonna be all set there. So that's how mobile check deposit works. Another one of our payment methods for Housecall Pro. All right, I'm gonna look at my checklist. What have I gone through so far? Instapay, mobile check deposit, ACH, typing a normal card transaction, card on file. Anything else before I start talking about the kind of the HCP Money suite of products? Well, Chris.
Before we jump into that, I had a couple of questions that we pulled from the Facebook group, something we do every week. We try to answer them while we're here. A couple things related to payment types and mobile check deposit. I do have a question here from Platinum Air Heating and Cooling. Mobile check deposit through Housecall Pro. Is there a way to apply the check deposit to multiple invoices?
Not yet, but it's on the roadmap. Definitely, you're not the first person to give us that feedback, and we're working on it.
Okay.
Coming
Awesome.
soon.
And then I think I just wanted to check too about the different payment types that we have. Somebody here was asking, Lawrence was asking about Zelle. Is that an option? And then I had another question similar. Oh, where did it go? Uh, it was another similar question to that regard of the credit card transactions all displaying my money, but I don't see where cash or check is. And I know that's in a different
Yeah,
product.
exactly. Yeah. So unfortunately, Zelle, Venmo, those kind of like peer-to-peer payment methods, we don't. You'll basically, like, because the funds don't flow through Housecall Pro, they're going directly from the customer's bank account to your bank account. We can't verify that those funds even, went through the system. And so that'd be an example of when I talked about, like, you can just mark the job as paid with other. That's where you would go in and you would mark that there. You would have to remember to do that though. So it's kind of it can get a little bit tricky where, like, the customer's paid you, but if you don't remember to go in and click that other button, I can go and pull up another example to show you guys exactly where that is. So we're just going to, this one, just going to duplicate this job. I can remember how to do that. I'll just copy this to a new job, same customer. If you're doing a lot of the same job, that's like a really useful tool. I feel a lot of your jobs look similar. So if you click pay here, this customer does have a card on file. Let's say they told me to remove it for some reason. Over here, this other, that's like where you'd mark Zelle, where you'd mark Venmo, where you'd mark all those other, if you're not using Housecall Pro, I think we even surface some of them here. So that's where you would go, but that's not going to display my money because those funds didn't actually transfer through Housecall Pro. And so, we can't do things like just validate that job was ever really paid. So
Awesome. Thank you for answering that.
yeah, absolutely.
We did get a couple other questions that came through in the chat here. Curtis was asking, we hear this question a lot. I don't know, maybe you know something different. I don't believe we're doing anything anytime soon about credit card fees, passing those on to your customers.
Yeah, we talk
Been
about this a
debated.
lot internally. I think rest assured that anytime there's pros in the Facebook group or you like talking about this is something that we like take really seriously. There's a lot of complexity in this one. There's a lot of and I think there's rest assured, it's not because we don't want to do this. I think it's because there's a lot of regulatory and compliance concerns with this behavior. And I think, Housecall is becoming a relatively big company. We have a lot of pros who are using our software and puts a bigger target on our back. And we need to make sure that we're doing our diligence before we, ship a feature that potentially has a big impact. So we are definitely actively talk about it probably on a weekly basis. I assure you that.
Awesome. Okay, and then one last question from Andrea regarding mobile check deposit. She said, sorry if this was already answered, but does the check deposit option confirm there is money in the customer's account before marking it as paid? As of right now, we don't mark it as paid until the check clears.
Mhm. So it does not. I will say that's a relatively rare scenario, but if that does, so we deposit the check basically, like we start that process. It's as if you were to take that check to the bank. What would happen in, for the bank or for us is within about 2 or 3 business days, that homeowner's bank will say, hey, there's actually no money in this account. And we will notify you via email. Your job status will change and we'll basically say, like, this payment failed. This customer didn't have funds in their account. Um, so I think if you're working with customers who you're concerned about funds availability, my recommendation is, credit cards and debit cards are generally, those are like a guaranteed funds method where when that charge is processed, there's a live communication back to that customer's bank that's making sure that there's actually funds in that bank. Mobile check deposit, it's an older payment method. It doesn't have that guaranteed funds mechanism the same way that like card payments do. So that's, a really good question though. That is definitely like in general limitation of accepting checks. Does ACH check for funds? That's a good question. Sometimes. I don't, it definitely is a little bit, it's a better step forward from mobile check deposit. There's like a little bit of, we do some checks to make sure there's more checks, I'll say, when you use ACH than a mobile check deposit in terms of our funds there, but it's not 100% guaranteed. I'll say, like, trying to think of how to say this without getting myself in trouble. Like, card payments are 100%. Like, you're not gonna, the funds are there and you're gonna receive those funds. Now, that customer could, at some point, they're really unhappy with you, dispute that charge, but like there's a whole workflow there. And we have a whole team that's dedicated to basically making sure that you can submit evidence back to get that, to keep that money. But that could be a scenario that happens. Then in the middle ground is the ACH. Sometimes we check, sometimes we don't check. Depends a little bit on a couple factors. Mobile check deposit, we do not check. So, that doesn't happen. And I just say from my experience, like, bouncing checks is not super common. Typically, customers, have funds in their account, but that is just to give you as much information as possible. That is a scenario that can exist. All right, I love it. I'm on my toes. This is good. Um, okay, I think I'm ready to go to. We're gonna go to some money out stuff.
Yeah, let's do
What
it.
I call money out. So, the reason I call it money out is, payouts, customer payments. That's all getting money into your business. We also have a series of tools for you to spend money, and that's in the form of our expense cards product. Um, this has a really straightforward onboarding flow. You just basically confirm how many employees you have, and this, again, fake information, but like there's no real limits here. This is just you don't have to have a certain amount of employees or a certain amount of revenue. This is just something we do on our side to make sure that your account is all set up to go. While this is loading, this will take a second. Look at my notes again. So we'll talk through funding your account, what that process looks like, ordering expense cards, differences between virtual cards and physical cards, some card control stuff. We'll also spend a little bit of time talking about bill pay. So the first screen you're going to get is just basically, like, we recommend starting with $250. Our average transaction size is in like the $60 to $90 range. So this just lets you make sure you have a couple of successful transactions. So I'm gonna go ahead and click. Oh, that's because I just started this account too soon. I'll do this in a second. So this is Housecall Pro Money. So on your left hand, just to orient you, my money tab. Over here on the left-hand side, we have a bunch of navigation. And there's a bunch of tabs that just opened. I just need to change something behind the scenes so I can actually go and add some money to this account to show you what that looks like. So bear with me for just 1 second.
Yeah.
All right, so I just need to get around that protection. So, all right, adding funds to your account. First time you do this, this is, moving money from your external bank to Housecall Pro money. There's two ways you can do this. So one of this top option is what I just talked through, getting money from your external account into Housecall Pro money. We also have something called minimum balance. And this is a way, if you're somebody who's running payments through Housecall Pro, we can basically take some of those funds and move them into this account for you and maintain what we call a minimum balance. The reason it's called minimum is you can always add more funds to it, but what we're trying to do is at least keep that much money in your account. And you can always do both. So I'll go run through both quickly. If say you're a pro who, we see a lot of pros who say like, I want to keep $1,000 in my account at all times. And so I'm going to click confirm here. What that's going to do is next time I were like charge a card on file or take a customer's credit card, we're going to take either all of that if it's less than $1,000, or if it's, let's say it's like a $1,500 credit card charge, we're only going to take $1,000 of that and we're going to put it into this account. If I go back to the overview page up here, you can see our current balance is 0 because there's no funds available yet. I haven't taken any payments. Go back to funding though. The other way you can just add funds is with the external account. So if you click here, let's say you're going to put in, $5,000. You have two options here, standard transfers or instant transfers. Instant transfers aren't available to all of our customers. This is something that's kind of like Instapay a little bit. You have to have some account activity in order to get access to it, but the majority of our customers do get access to this, and it's an additional 1% fee and will instantly fund your account. So I'll go with a standard transfer for now. You'd select your bank from here. You can add multiple banks if you'd like to. This is defaulting to like the same bank that's receiving your payouts. So, just to clarify where that comes from, you can also, for this funding, you can set, a frequency. So you can set up like a recurring, hey, I want to get this every week or every other week. Try to put it in like a set and forget mode. And so I think like minimum balance is a really good option around like, I just want to like set it to $1,000 and never thinking about it again. Or you set it to I want to put $5,000 into this every 2 weeks. That's another good like set and forget. So you don't have to think about this as much. So I'll confirm this screen, and this is going to add funds to the account. Because it was standard, it's coming in. It's not available yet. If I'd picked the instant option, it would be available already. We'll go through expense cards real quick. There's two different types of expense cards we have. One are physical and one are virtual. I actually have it on my desk. Our physical cards look sweet. I don't know if you can see me, but this is what the physical cards look like. They're these like black, they have like this cool horizontal, they're pretty sweet. So those are what are physical cards you'd order for your business. I only have one employee, but basically you have to have an employee in Housecall Pro. So you set up your team within Housecall Pro, and then you'll pick those from this list. Spending limits are something that we see a lot of use for, especially for folks who are kind of have technicians out in the field and you want to control how they're spending your funds per transaction or kind of time-based. Let's say I just want to set a daily limit of, I'm just hoping this person's just going to use this for fuel, and I think it's going to be $25 a day of fuel. And in order for it to only be fuel, you also have to turn on this toggle up here. I will say just the purchase at gas stations, this is like the way this works is that technically this person could spend $25 on Cheetos from the gas station. This isn't just the fuel dispenser itself. It's hard for us to differentiate between those two, but we see a lot of customers using this sort of control to make sure their technicians are only buying fuel. So I'll go down here, I'll click order card. Again, this is fake. I wish it was sending me a real card. But this will this will arrive in 7 to 10 business days, and then it'll pop up in this. One thing you do need to do is you do need to activate the card. That's a pretty important step. So we default all the cards to inactive. That means they just can never be, they won't work. And this is instant. So like if you, let's say, I hope this never happens to anyone. You have a rogue technician out there and you know he has an expense card. You can basically, it's as easy as one click and you click save, and that's going to deactivate their expense card. Um, and so, I hope that never happens for anyone here, but it's happened in the past, and this gives you that like immediate ability for you to deactivate that expense card. In this case, I'm just going to activate it. So this is, now activated. Typically, I'd recommend like waiting until you have the cards physically in your possession before you activate them, but that's what that option is. All right, let's talk about virtual cards for a quick sec, and then we'll go to bill pay. Virtual cards are exactly what they sound like. You basically you set them to you have to have like a person in your system that you set them to. This might be you have like an online vendor, for example, that you want to use this for. Again, these can have spending limits associated to them. You click order card here, but you're going to get the card instantly. So it's going to look like this. Again, similar thing, you can deactivate or activate the card here. This one, same thing, has a spending limit. And if you click this button here, this will show the card details, and you can copy them down or add them to an online portal, whatever you'd like there. So a lot of functionality there for virtual cards. Again, this is all fake. I wish it was real, but that virtual card won't do anything. All right, that's expense cards. We talked about funding. All your transactions are here. I don't have an example right now because I just created this account of all of the like what you can do when a transaction is created. But that's kind of on this like reconciling, reviewing transactions. And so to voice over that a little bit, we have a receipt capture product. And so that means that anytime a transaction occurs, you can set up this a notification to go to that technician to remind them to take a picture of the receipt for that transaction they just generated. They do that with a mobile app. There's a button you click. I don't have my phone like linked up right now, but it's really easy to do from the mobile app. You take a picture of that receipt, and then it'll appear right here. So if you're in the office or your office manager's in the office, they'll be able to see all of the receipts associated to the transactions that have been created. So that's one really important way that we see a lot of customers reconciling transactions. The other way is with job linking. What you can do and what we're kind of actively building out more product around is the ability to take these transactions and link them to jobs. So ultimately, you can get to a job level view of, hey, like show me all the transactions that are corresponding to this job, and you'll be able to actually apply that filter in here and do that. So apologies, this account is not set up with a lot of expense card transactions yet, but just to voice over what that looks like. Receipt capture is really great. Job linking, it all pushes to QuickBooks. There's a Housecall Pro money account that gets created. And so it syncs with QuickBooks if you're using that. I'm not a QuickBooks expert, but it essentially creates another account within that system, and then all the transactions sync over. You can add memos as well to the transactions, which pushes over. So a lot of good functionality there. And lastly, I'll go into bill pay quickly. Pause for a sec, Chris. Have a sip of my water.
Yeah, go for it. No, thank you for taking us through expense cards. They've come a long way. When I was a pro, I was one of the early users and testers. So seeing virtual cards and receipt capture and all this stuff come along is really cool.
Yeah, we definitely put a lot of effort into it over the last couple of years. So bill pay. Bill pay also has a little like just get started button here. This one though is a little more straightforward. We have this nice little get started flow for you just to understand how this works. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I use a little bit of like kind of automatically filling things out for you. And so you can see the way bill pay works is basically you're uploading invoices from your vendors. And so this looks like is a HVAC supplier, and you have your vendor details are uploaded up here. And then you're ultimately going to be paying that customer. And so we use some AI to basically pull all the information off of the invoice that we can and populate that over here. And then the ways you actually pay that vendor, there's a couple different ways The two primary ways are with an actual bank transfer. This does require that they give you the account routing number, which isn't common for all vendors. And then you can also mail a check. So we've seen, I'm showing kind of like a accounts payable for like a supplier, but we've also seen people use this for like landlords if you're renting a space or if you just need to get a check somewhere. There's lots of different ways that you can use this. And this last option down here, basically the vendor or the person who you're paying gets an email that says like, hey, how do you want to pay? Do you want to enter your account routing number or do you want to receive a check? The ACH, account routing number process is definitely faster than the mailed check. And so we see pros using both. You can also schedule the bill later if you'd like to. So you go ahead and review it, and then submit it. And then this is going to, this was actually, I think, a test bill, so I don't think this is going to show, but let's just go back into the UI and see what this whole thing looks like. Oh, it does, I think it does submit a $1 bill just to show you the ropes there. But basically, like, this is kind of back to the bill pay. There's three different tabs here that we give you. This is like the overview tab where you can pay new bills. If you click that button, you're going to go back to like the invoice flow. Again, we try to like use some AI magic to try and like make it really easy for you to get that bill. And so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. So that is the bill pay flow. We also have an inbox. The way this works is you can either email bills to this inbox by copying and pasting this email address. This is dedicated for you, and any invoices you email to this email will automatically appear in here. And then you can also keep a list of vendors. So, in this case, this created my own company as a vendor when I went through that test flow, but you'll have a vendor here and, we see pros upload a bunch of vendors so they can keep track of all their bills for that specific vendor. So that's the bill pay flow. Last note I'll say, and then getting a little bit closer to wrapping up, your account statements are down here. So if working with an accountant or someone on the financial side, once you finish, at the end of the month, it takes us a couple of business days, but we'll generate an account statement for you, and those all populate down here. That'll have all of your transactions from expense cards and bill pay for you to review. All right,
So,
flew through that last one a little bit, but way to go, you're already set up. That's everything you need to know for a lot of payment stuff, a lot of money out, expenses stuff. Hopefully this is helpful.
yeah, thank you so much for taking us through all of that, Charlie. Pros, last chance. If you have any other questions right now that we can answer, I'll give you all a minute. Um, one other question I had pre-poll, last one. I put you on the spot again, Charlie. This is a common question in our Facebook group sometimes too. A lot of pros, by the way, have given suggestions for this since it doesn't exist, but it's a question about gift cards, if we're ever going to do gift cards or how pros do gift certificates. Some of our pros I know have shared that they make their own certificates and they have ways of doing that. But there's nothing built in within Housecall Pro for that kind of capability.
I feel like it's a really good pro vote. And I feel like I've heard similar feedback to this around maybe it's like around discounts and promo codes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, there's not a pro vote for this. We should get one started because I think this has come up before and we have a really good, for those who don't know, we have like basically a public roadmap that you can go and you can see all the things that we're focused on building. And if there's not a like kind of dedicated gift card idea in there yet, we should get one in there so that our product teams can see that and start to move towards that. Because I think that makes a lot of sense. We do hear that pretty consistently.
Definitely. All right. I'm gonna drop to this link. Pros, if you were here and you got something out of this, would love to. Charlie was so gracious to be here. Brandon was also here, just in case he didn't answer any questions, but dropped a link to a Facebook post we put out the other day. I know their team is working on just identifying some cash flow challenges. So if you could participate in that poll, if you're in our group, or leave some comments to some of those questions, I know they'd appreciate it.
Yeah, all responses are welcomed, even the funny ones. Sometimes I need a good laugh. So there's a couple good replies in there already.
Awesome. Yeah, agreed, Mariana. Curtis, I definitely hear you. Yeah, something we're always considering. Yeah, there's a ton of, if you're in our Facebook group, there's a ton of threads on this. For those of you that know Roland, he's given a lot of takes on this as well. So uh, definitely listening, definitely hear you. Just don't have anything that we could share right now. Yeah, Andrea, I've seen that suggestion going around. I don't particularly adopt that answer just to be safe, but that is something that many pros suggest. Awesome. And then lastly, I'm going to drop the link to if you're new to Power Hour or you haven't been here, or you want to catch up on something else. I just dropped the link. That's our recording library. You can go back and watch all of the past sessions there. We'll upload this one tomorrow here and on YouTube. So, um, yeah. And then next week, just to give you guys an idea, next week, I believe we are going to be tackling invoice reminders and invoice and estimate settings. So, um, kind of similar theme here a little bit. Still sticking with some financial things, making sure you're getting your money. We'll be talking about just all those settings and how you can turn those reminders on and off.
Yeah, automations. That's like a big deal. If you can get it right, you don't have to think about it as much.
Right, exactly. Okay, well, awesome. Well, Charlie, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And pros, we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, of course. Thanks all.
All right, thanks. Take care.